Watch this. So here's what we're doing, folks. $2,500 went to principal, $6,000 went to interest. First, I showed him if you prepaid $2,510.64, all that would go to principal. You would be paid down on line 2 on your amortization schedule, and this $2,500 prepaid would save you $6,193.36 in interest you never have to pay. So, and talking to him, he says, you know what, Don, we're putting in, I don't want to touch this money, but I asked him, do you have an account where you are putting in monies so that you could do maintenance and repairs on all of your properties? He says, yes, we're putting about $6,000 a month into that out of the rent that we're collecting. Okay, great. I said, and then I found out he has about, I don't know, about $100,000 in there. Okay, about $100,000 in there. So I said, I want you to see this. I want you to see this, Mr. Investor. Take a look at this amortization schedule. We're looking at cumulative principal and cumulative interest right there. Okay. All right. And so now when we see that, if you take a look at this, cumulative principal for 1 year, that's $30,699.86 that you will pay out in 1 year. But how much interest is that going to cost you to get $30,000 in equity? So that's $73,484.14. Folks, I have to put a calculator on the screen right now. So we're going to add that up. How much interest? $73,748.14 in interest, plus the money that went to principal, $30,699.86 equals $104,448. So, folks, here's what I asked him. Even though you're cash flowing, even though you're making money hand over fist, but you also are looking at the equity that you're gaining in this property. I asked him, do you think you want to continue to spend money like this, even though your tenants are paying $104,000 out in 1 year just to get $30,000 worth of equity? He said, no, I don't want to keep doing that. I do not want to keep doing that. I said, let's see what we can do here. Okay. All right. So that means you have to pay $73,000 out to get $30,000 in equity. Do you want to pay that kind of interest to get $30,000? And I said, if you have to pay $73,000 to get $30,000 in equity, do you really have equity when you're counting how much interest you have to pay to get it? You know, an experienced real estate investor never really looked at the interest cost on the loans, just the interest rate. So let's focus in on the interest cost and see what we can do. All right. So here's what I told him. I said, out of that money, you got nearly $100,000 sitting in the bank account. All right. And it's making a little over 0.1% sitting in that bank account. So I asked him, would it be possible for you to borrow from that bank account $30,699.86? Would it be possible for you to do that and pay it towards this loan, not in 12 monthly installments, but in just one installment? Could you just pay that as a prepayment to the loan, about $30,000, and borrow it from yourself out of that account that's only making about 0.1%? He said, well, yeah, because I'd still have almost $70,000 in that account to do what I need to do as far as, fixing stuff, And I said, okay, yeah. So, and he's never going to spend all of that in 1 month. No. So 70 grand, and he's taking out about 30 grand out of it. Apply it to here. Guess what happens? Okay. So I'm going to go a little bit slower. I'm actually going to do the math here. And our mortgage, all right, is $1,488,906.65. If we prepay the $30,000, so we got to subtract that. Listen, this is how much principal he can pay down in 1 year. Let's subtract $30,699.86. not in 12 monthly installments, but in one installment. So we're going to subtract, okay, $30,699.86. That equals $1,458,206.79. Folks, that is the same number that's right here. Oh, look at that. 2067. It's the same number. Look at that. So he could pay it in 12 monthly installments, or he can pay it in one installment. So when I showed him that, I said, what then happens to all the interest payments between line 2 and line 12 on your amortization schedule? What happens to all that interest? He says, I never have to pay it. I said, so you mean to tell me you could take 30 grand out of your account that's practically making no interest, put it on this mortgage, and save yourself, look at this line 11, $67,661.37 in interest? He said, oh my gosh, yes. Are you hearing that, folks? Are you hearing that? So this is what I asked him next. I said, listen, now, even though you're cash flowing, even though you got tenants paying the rent, you got tenants paying it, can you now justify paying $73,000? Can you justify paying $73,000 of your hard-earned money just to get $30,699 in equity? He says, no way. No way can I justify that now. Not when I know I could use that money to prepay and know what I'm going to get in interest savings. That is $67,000 in interest savings to do the same thing. So folks, what just happened? He paid his loan down from point A, starting at line 1, paid it down from line 1 down to line 12. He did it in 1 month. Instead of costing him $73,000 in interest to do the same thing, it only cost him $6,203.78 in interest to do the very same thing.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life, and it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.